A lot of them actually believe in the manosphere, by the way. The manosphere, you know the manosphere.
You made that up?
realize people have different opinions in there and are different groups and different
Okay. Actually, I did.
Yeah!
Face to face with a few of them.
such as
Well, Emily Yukis.
she's not there.
Okay. What was his name?
You haven't
Yeah.
talked to a single one of them. You don't know what you're talking about. You're slandering people like all the people that were out here protesting. You don't know what you're
Listen,
talking about.
actually, I think that if you're going to do this interview that way, and I think that's ridiculous. You interviewed,
if you're gonna slander people, I'm gonna call you out, and this is me calling you out. So you
I
have
am
a good
slandering
night.
them for their policies of racism. I have read Mike Cernovich's awfulness, and just because you're laughing and wearing a beautiful gown
thank
doesn't
you.
mean that you are correct. Actually,
Right,
I'm
me
sorry.
having the facts means I'm correct.
I thought there
What
were a
facts
lot
have
of...
you given me? You've asked me a lot of questions, and then when I haven't given something, you say that I'm wrong. But what facts have you actually offered? I just want to know that.
I offered counters to every single time you claimed there was a white supremacist in there.
You offered bullying tactics.
No, I'm asking for you to substantiate your bullying and slander of this group, and you haven't given me one piece of substantial evidence. Not one.
How about Milo Yiannopoulos?
He's not there.
He was actually a featured guest.
He's not
Is
there.
he not there?
I was just in there. He's not there.
Is
You
he-
don't know a
He was
thing.
a featured
You
guest.
don't know a thing. No,
he
he's
was
not.
a featured guest.
I was just in there. He's not in there.
That doesn't mean he wasn't a featured guest. Could you actually accurately
I'm a
state?
featured guest at the deplorable.
I know that you are. You're actually the only woman who's actually featured. Because guess what? It's a bunch of dudes. And I do not appreciate that.
Did you just call me a woman? I'm legally a man.
Are you?
Yes.
Do your viewers realize that?
Yes. I did a whole video on it.
You're legally a man?
I am legally a man.
Do you identify as a cis woman or a cis
I'm a
male
man.
or transgender?
I'm a man.
You're a man?
Yes.
Can I interject?
I'm surprised by that.
I just
My
wanna
apologies. I
interject.
never would have known that.
Cheers. All right. Well, make
Can I
sure to check
interject?
people's
So you-
pronouns first next time. I gotta
All
get
right,
going.
I'm
But
gonna
have a
interject.
good
Are
night.
people-
Hello, Lesbian Bieber checking in with the Rebel Media. I'm here today because I'm going to be going to a doctor's clinic to see if I can be diagnosed as a man. I don't know if it'll work. I've got a pretty good getup, in my opinion. And because gender is on a spectrum, I mean, unless they're massive bigots, they'll have to give me the diagnosis. Ezra has already given me some excellent tips. Things to say. Pals before gals. Let's get fucked up. May I have my license, m'lady? Thanks for the tips, Ezra. I'm sure they'll be super helpful. Let's go see if this works.
Able to get your
So when I go to get my driver's license, so when I go into bars and stuff, people don't misgender me. I just want to be able to have male on my gender identification on my driver's license card, but I need a doctor's note to do that. They're changing it in the next 2 years, so you don't need any
so
sort of
that you
note.
don't have to identify female or male.
Yeah, no. I use male pronouns along with
Okay.
my friends, yeah.
So that he doesn't have to identify as female on his official government documentation.
Well, I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. I mean, it's not like I can prove anything, right?
Yeah,
Obviously.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is to, did you say identify?
To use, male identification.
This is to, when did you start using the male?
About a year ago.
So any particular reason that the sudden change in the past year?
I feel that my gender is a more masculine gender. I don't always present as masculine, but inside, gender is a spectrum. It's different how you present, it's different how you feel, and I've always felt more masculine. I'm attracted to girls. I've always been more masculine.
So it's always
as an
been,
individual.
it's not like it's a sudden thing from
No,
last year.
it's
You
been
did it last year.
it's been a long time, my whole life.
Okay. Do you want me to say that you should be identified as a male?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. The letters of
Thank
the,
you so much.
Okay, so I am in absolute shock right now. I am now medically diagnosed as a male. This is astonishing to me. I mean, it's quite clear that my hair is just up in a hat, but I guess that's all it takes to get your diagnosis. So I already have better eyesight. You know, I think I'm getting paid more. You know, I'm stronger. I feel more privileged. This is great. Being a man is great. But I need one last thing to be a real man. I need to legally be a man. So we're going to go and see if I can get my government ID changed to male.
So I have a letter from the doctor with information for that. Can I accept it? Sure. Here, just want to show it to you. So this is your photo card number.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, so as of today, I now have a doctor's confirmation that I should be identified as a male and legal confirmation that I am indeed a dude. I honestly didn't expect it to be that easy. And you know what? Some people might be wondering, like, what's the big deal? So what if people can just change their gender whenever they want? How does that impact me? How does it impact society? Well, I'll tell you how it negatively impacts society. It makes us, as a whole, give up our sense of honesty, objectivity, and our respect for facts. I mean, we've gotten to this point of toxic hedonism where we've decided that we prefer feelings over objective honesty. We've decided that we prefer to do whatever makes us feel good rather than acknowledge the reality of situations. I showed up to get my government ID wearing makeup. I had my hair down. I was wearing high heels. I was talking like a chick when I was there. But when I said I want to be a male, the government worker played into my delusions because she doesn't want to get fired. And in fact, if Bill C-16 goes through, Trudeau's new bill on transgender rights, LGBTQ things, people could literally go to jail for denying someone's gender identity, no matter what they present as, no matter if they have a doctor's note or anything. You could go to jail. That is insane. Today, you can go into a doctor's office, and this is even before Bill C-16 has gone through, and it'll take you 1 hour, not even, to intimidate a doctor into giving you whatever identification you want. We're embracing calling professors they. We're considering making it illegal to question people's ridiculous pronouns. How far can this go? Society is going to come to a crossroad at some point. Are we going to embrace reality or fiction?
Fuck them. Take a picture of me. Fuck them. I'm right here. You went
Yeah, Jeffrey, interesting point that, because that's something a lot of people have said, is if you're on a no-fly list, you shouldn't be able to own a gun. Lawrence says otherwise.
No, Ms. Southern is completely wrong and tone-deaf like Mr. Ryan. Let me tell you about Ms. Southern. I love it that she comes to my country and preaches no gun laws when Miss Southern is a Canadian where they have very, very strict gun laws and where the gun laws work. We in the United States have 50,000 gun deaths a year. Miss Southern in Canada has fewer than 310. So, Miss Southern, here's my advice to you. Go back to Canada, get the gun laws changed there and obliterated, and then come back on Sky and let us know how well that worked out for you.
Let's let Lawrence Southern have a chance to respond to that. That's quite an accusation, Jeffrey.
Oh, I would love for the gun laws to change in Canada. If I were an individual that were in America in a mass shooting, the first thing I would think is, I wish I had a gun on me. I wish I were able to defend myself. The gun is an equalizer. As an individual, if I were attacked, I would have many men who attacked me I couldn't outpower. I would want a gun on me to defend myself from rape, from being murdered. If I was in a mass shooting, I would be a sitting duck. As much as you can love and trust the government, they still have to make that call. They still have a time to get there. And if there were someone with a gun in the Orlando shooting or the Paris shooting, any of these places, these mass deaths could have been stopped. Even the Eagles of Death, the concert that was playing in Paris, the singers said that I wish there was someone in there with a gun so that this could have been stopped. I will try to change the laws in Canada, and I wish I were in the States right now, and maybe I'll go there someday so that I can have the right to defend myself from both people who want to attack me, do me harm, and from a tyrannical government.
Okay, it's a good point, but on the other hand...
no, it's not a good point. It's nonsense. It's utter crap. It's not a good point at all. It's fallacious nonsense. It's rhetoric. It doesn't make any sense.
I'm going to apologise for your language. We are, of course, on live TV, so let's just remember that when we're discussing
I know, and it's still crap.
Please explain to me how one of these amendments would have stopped the shooting in Orlando.
I will gladly explain what gun control does.
No, what the amendments that are being...
No, listen. Just listen. In your youthful high school exuberance, you are very naive. What gun violence does,
can call me names,
what gun laws do is prevent gun violence. See, one of the things Miss Southern... It did really. There were guns in Orlando in the club.
There were tons of gun laws,
but there were guns. There were guns in the club in Orlando. The guards were armed. Obviously, you've never carried a gun. Some of us who served in the U.S. military have carried a gun.
Okay, Jeffrey,
and I can tell you something.
Let's get back to the subject here.
Let me finish. When you have lots and lots of guns in a room, what you get is panic and more deaths. Miss Southern doesn't have a clue what she's talking about.
Okay, Jeffrey, less of the personal attacks, please. Let's keep it on the subject. Lauren Southern,
it is on the subject. She's talking nonsense.
But less of the personal attacks, please. Lauren Southern, just to change tack slightly here. Now, what we saw in Orlando, it was, frankly, the kind of assault weapon you don't need to defend yourself. There are over 3 million of those in ownership in the US. We don't need assault rifles like that, do you, to defend yourself? Surely the law should be changed.
The thing is, it's an equalizer, right? If the government has a weapon that they can use against the people, I mean, you can say, no, it's not, sir, but that's not an argument. You saw during the Chicago riots where you had Asian store owners defending their stores from being burnt down, and the only way they did that was with high-caliber weapons, and they were one of the few peoples that didn't have their stores burned down. You saw it during, in Ukraine, when you had the government sniping their own people. The people who were disarmed, they were fighting with Molotovs against sniper rifles. You need to be able to defend yourself from a tyrannical government. And with most of America seemingly thinking that Trump is the new Adolf Hitler, I'd think that liberals would want to be arming themselves to defend themselves from a Fourth Reich.
Utter nonsense.
Okay, Jeffrey,
Jeffrey.
In some German towns, there's more than just cultural conflict. People pledge allegiance to entirely different nations. Despite being warned by my cab driver that the area was dangerous for Canadians, I decided to take a quick trip to the district of Duisburg, Germany, called Marxloh. Estimates say that Duisburg is home to around 100,000 Turkish people. In a city of a population that is just under 500,000, that's a pretty big demographic. And it shows. When I was walking through the town, my jaw was dropping. I could not believe what I was seeing, and that I was still in Germany. There were cars everywhere with Turkish flags, windows with Turkish flags, and giant Turkish flags hanging from buildings above stores. Everyone spoke Turkish, and the stores prominently featured Turkish goods. I didn't hear anyone speaking German when I was in Marxloh. I think I saw a grand total of 2 non-Turkish people. How can this even be considered a part of Germany anymore? These people are not only not integrating, but they openly commit themselves to another country. It almost felt like a turf war. Like the Turkish people there were claiming the land as their own, like any group of people would do when they conquer a city and put up their flag. In Marxloh, Germany has surrendered its sovereignty. The Turks have completely dominated the area. There were few German flags left in Marxloh, and when I did see them, they seemed like a sad little protest on conquered land, a harrowing symbol of the weary soul of Germany. Why else would you move to a country if you are in love with another? If you are so obsessed with Turkey, why not stay there? If you have no intention of being a German, why not move back? Germany is being conquered culturally, quite literally, and as immigration increases and Germany leaves its borders open, the borders of these enclaves will expand until the country is unrecognizable. You see this all over the world. We have cultural enclaves in Canada where people don't learn the language, don't integrate or mix with other Canadians, and have an entirely different culture. Our governments claim these communities are evidence of multiculturalism. But when you go to these enclaves, there is no evidence of integration. It is just segregation. And this fragile equilibrium cannot last for long.
I want to talk about your rise, but let's talk about Milo for just a second. Because if you mention his name and then you don't say something, everyone's going to freak out. What are your general thoughts on what's happened over the last couple weeks?
You know, I actually made a video on it, and then I just decided not to publish it because I didn't think I could be objective on it. Because I know, like, I lived with Milo for like a week when I was in LA with him, and we went to your show and talked to him a bit. Obviously, he's been such a good person to me personally. He's even helped me through stuff, like in my personal life. Like, he's been just such a kind person. He is not a pedophile. He doesn't support pedophilia. I will never believe that. However, I understand how people looking in on the situation reacted that way. And I understand how I would have reacted if it were a Democrat that did this. Me knowing Milo personally changes my opinion on the issue, but I can't blame people for criticizing him. So I didn't publish the video because I didn't think I could be objective.
Yeah.
No, Bill. There is no Muslim ban. If there was,
fuck off.
Sorry, why don't we...
Fuck off.
Okay.
It's a fucking Muslim ban.
Okay.
He said there was a Muslim
This is the point.
There's a Muslim
This isn't
ban.
talk about the hysteria. I'm talking about 85% of the world's Muslims are allowed into the country.
This is what you do, Piers. You say, he hasn't done this, he hasn't done that, he's not going to do all these things. Give him a fucking chance, mate.
And
you know what I mean?
and why not?
Hitler didn't kill the Jews on the first day. He worked up to it.
Mate.
J.K. Rowling took to Twitter after the incident, claiming that it was extremely satisfying to hear Piers Morgan being told to fuck off on live TV. To which Piers said, "This is why I haven't read a single word of Harry Potter." And the argument continued, and then Rowling ended the debate with, "If only you'd read Harry Potter, you'd know the downside of sucking up to the biggest bully in school is getting burned alive." The tweet got massive attention with hundreds of thousands of favorites and retweets. Leftists in general seem to adore Harry Potter and their social justice hero, J.K. Rowling. But there is one important fact that J.K. and her fans seem to be omitting when using Harry Potter as an argument, and that is that Harry Potter is fiction. It is not real. It is fantasy. It is not a political science textbook. J.K. is not a philosopher. Harry Potter is not an international relations how-to guide. In no situation should Harry Potter be the device that people interpret the world by. Rowling seems to fall onto the end of the political debate where we open up our borders and the world lives happily ever after in a multicultural, peaceful dream. War will be over, there will be no conflict or terrorism. We'll save everyone in the Middle East by dropping our defenses and letting everyone in. Now, she can go ahead and write that fantasy narrative in her head all she wants, but the real world is a lot different than Harry Potter, Miss Rowling. For example, in Harry Potter, Padma Patil was a happy little witch attending Hogwarts. In reality, she has to deal with the horrors of barbaric practices within Islam. Practices that the West hopes to keep out of their society. The actress of Padma Patil was actually beaten and branded a prostitute by her brother because she dated a Hindu instead of a Muslim. And her brother and father threatened to kill her. She had to flee her home. I know the left like to ignore that this world exists, and they like to stick to the realm where they're all happy wizards and all Trump supporters are Death Eaters. But this is just not the case in the real world. But fine, if you really want to play the game of using your books to apply them to real-world politics, let's do that, JK. Let me ask you, why did the Wizards build Platform 9 3/4? Why did they have a magical brick wall to keep Muggles out? Is it because maybe Muggles had some barbaric cultural practices of burning witches, and they wanted to keep their worlds separate for fear that Muggles wouldn't understand them? Keep them separate in order to have peace and safety? Oh, and not only did they have one magical barrier, Hogwarts itself had its own barrier as well to keep out unfriendly enemies. It's almost like you yourself know that walls and borders are a good thing, JK. It's almost like you yourself know that vetting people before they enter a different land is a good idea in order to keep the people within safe. I mean, with the Salem witch trials and the way Muggles treated witches and wizards historically, it's not like the wizards didn't have a reason to be afraid. Also, the only prominent Muggles we meet in the books are the Dursleys, who were extremely abusive towards Harry because he was a wizard. JK, are you really so dumb that you don't realize your own books disprove your points?
Seriously though, in the real world we don't have one race that are almost literal gods compared to the other. So I think everyone should know it's silly to read Harry Potter as an allegory for modern society. But at this point, it seems like millennials' disconnect with reality is so strong that they can only engage with politics through ridiculous pop culture references. They have to use gifs of Ariana Grande flipping her hair as arguments and smashing stuff as a form of political protest. Y'all need to grow up. You most of all, JK, you're an adult. You should know your books are fantasy and not be trying to push them into political debates. Yelling "fuck you" at Piers Morgan may indeed be satisfying to those who dislike him, but it is not an argument, and neither is talking about your fiction books. If you really want to prove Piers wrong, if you really want to critique Trump, stay in the realm of reality. But I really doubt you and your hysterical celebrity friends will do that, because leaving your fantasy safe space would require admitting Piers Morgan was right, and your narrative always comes before truth.